The Pittsburgh Steelers once again lose an opening round playoff game. Paige Dimakos, the question is going to be simple. Is it time to blow up the Pittsburgh Steelers core? And that means head coaching included.
I struggle with this one. I thought about it a lot, and I thought about it a lot leading into this game just based off the fact that I knew this Texans defense was so nasty that it was going to be really hard for this Pittsburgh Steelers team to get a win. That being said, I really believe that this team should try to run it back. If they can get, I know Aaron Rodgers is 42 years old, but you saw this team with very few weapons offensively. To really say that they gave it a full effort on offense is not really fair. They had Adam Thielen, who they picked up off waivers, Marquez Valdez-Scantling that they picked up off waivers. They really had one weapon, DK Metcalf, and he was suspended for the last 2 games of the year. This team never really was able to, I think, maximize its offensive opportunities, and the defense is good enough to win. And I have a lot of faith in Mike Tomlin. I understand that I think they're 1-7, or they've lost 7 straight games in the postseason, and I get it. I understand, Steeler fans, you're very upset, but I will remind you, the grass is not always greener on the other side. And look at, in your division, what Cleveland has been for a very long time. Be careful about making changes to coaches who win, coaches who outcoach the talent they have on their roster, and quarterbacks who are accurate enough and good enough to pick apart any defense. This Texans defense was insane. I didn't anticipate Aaron Rodgers being able to have much time, and that's exactly what we saw. So, no, Keith, I would like them to run it back if Aaron Rodgers is willing and able to come back and play football.
I agree. As soon as the clock hit triple zeros, right? If I'm the Pittsburgh Steelers front office, if I'm Mike Tomlin as the head coach, I'm going to Aaron Rodgers. I'm saying, listen, this was a half-hearted effort. We can get you more weapons, and you hit on it, right? You talked about how they had Adam Thielen, who I think is 35 or 37 years old, right?
Yeah.
They had to go and get a Marquez Valdez-Scantling, who's probably in the last year of his career. Aaron Rodgers' go-to deep threat was 5'5", 140-pound Calvin Austin at the end of the day, and even the running game, right? When you talk about Jalen Warren, who's been a pretty solid back for them, but their backup is journeyman Kenneth Gainwell. They don't have a dynamic running back either. So when you look at this core, the wide receiver core plus the running back core, the Pittsburgh Steelers offensive skill set period, it's a very average to below average core when you look at it outside of DK Metcalf. So I look at it and I say, listen, I tell Aaron Rodgers, you had a pretty good season this past year, right? I think you went 24 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, right? That's an efficient football year, right? That's a good football season for a quarterback. I think we can get you more weapons via the draft. But the biggest part, I'm saying this, I'm telling Arthur Smith, you're out of here as offensive coordinator. I'm going to knock on Mike McDaniel's door. I'm
Yep.
saying, listen, you want another shot to be a head coach? Come be our offensive coordinator for the Pittsburgh Steelers. This guy has creativity. He may not be the head coach that you want, right? But he can be an offensive genius. And Mike Tomlin needs to let go some of the reins, right?
I agree.
On that side of the football, get out of the 3 yards in a cloud of dust and punt and kicking field goals, right? Like take some deep shots, take some vertical shots, get creative with what you're doing, bringing some creative playmakers. So if I'm the Pittsburgh Steelers, I'm saying, you know what, run it back, because at the end of the day, we're a great franchise. But when you look at this team, especially offensively, it hasn't been great.
No, it hasn't, and it's time to come to the current state of football. And that comes with
Yeah.
love for somebody who I know Tomlin very well. I have so much respect and appreciation for him, but the reality is the way that they won is no longer the way that you can win in this current state of football. You have to be able to have more explosiveness on offense. And I love your call of bringing in a Mike McDaniel for a couple of reasons. One, he's the right quirky guy to kind of offset Tomlin and his old school football ways. If you put them together, you could kind of see how both sides would benefit from that relationship, in that
100%.
Tomlin would learn a lot and get a lot of energy, I think, from a younger guy who comes in, who's more creative, but would also give him confines to not go outside the box sometimes, where I think he was a little too creative with his offensive play calling, right?
Yeah,
And
it's almost like this, right? I don't mean to cut you off,
no, you're
but
good.
I feel like Mike McDaniel would be treating an old dog, like teaching an old dog new tricks,
Yes.
and then Mike Tomlin would be showing Mike McDaniel how to be a dog, period,
Yes,
right? Like,
yes.
it's just how you to
That
go
part.
about it.
That part. Mike Tomlin, if you think about what makes each of them their best self, right? They're total opposites. And that's why I think that would be a really good marriage. And if Mike McDaniel is totally serious about being a great head coach in the NFL, which as quirky as he does seem to be really devoted to being a great head coach. If that's what he wants, I can't think of a better way or a person to mentor him to really drive him to be the best version of himself. And you were in a flashy place like Miami, go to Pittsburgh. Toughen yourself up. Learn how to win in a tough division that's all about old school football. And I really love that call. I think Aaron Rodgers would really like that. And most importantly, though, I have to go back to this point. They have to have the personnel to go win football games. If you look at that offensive weapon wide receiver room, let's just take the wide receiver room and put it up against the likes of, let's go to the Cincinnati Bengals. Like, are you joking? Right? Like, look at the difference between who the Ravens have on offense catching passes, the Bengals have on offense catching passes, and even the Browns have better options catching passes than the Pittsburgh Steelers do at this point. If you're being honest with yourselves, if you sit down after this game and Tomlin is evaluating what went wrong, you have to say, one, waiting on Aaron Rodgers was very hard, right? They did not know Aaron was going to be with this team until way later in the process than they would have liked. It would be great for Aaron to have a true full offseason with this team, preparation-wise, chemistry-wise, and then two, adding weapons around him that you can make sure you get the best out of Aaron, because this version of him, you could see the moments, but man, he was frustrated a lot tonight. You could see it on his face. Aaron does not do a good job of hiding when he's pissed off, and he was pissed off a lot because there were dropped passes, there were bad routes. There was a time where he thought Calvin Austin was going to go on a skinny post, and he went on an out route. There were many moments where you could tell he was very frustrated, and some of that's talent, and then some of that's just time and chemistry. And I really think that, I don't know why you threw that Mike McDaniel thing, and I'm kind of like totally locked in on that. So I hope the Pittsburgh Steelers do that.
Yeah, I mean, in crystal ball, right? If I look at it, I think they run it back, and I think they want to run it back because Aaron Rodgers, right? And one of my many 3-hour trips, 3-hour flights to Phoenix, right? I told you I sat there and I watched the ayahuasca Aaron Rodgers documentary, right? And the biggest thing with Aaron Rodgers at that point in his career, he didn't find it challenging, right? But I think he finds the Pittsburgh Steelers situation challenging. I think it kind of reinvigorates him again. It's gritty. It's tough. It's about football, right? It's not about the politics. I think Pittsburgh is even less political than what Green Bay is, right?
Agreed.
Like, it's just a blue collar football team that doesn't care about pomp and circumstances. Like, what are we doing on a football field? So I think he really enjoys that. I think he likes that, right? And I think an offseason, obviously getting his body together, getting his mental together, if they make the right moves offensively, talking about improving the running back room, improving the wide receiver room, I think this could be a dangerous team. And then also the last part is, I don't expect the Pittsburgh Steelers secondary to be that bad next year neither, right? Like, this is one of the worst secondaries that they've fielded in a very long time. They're going to find a way to improve that also. So they are tweaks, minor tweaks away from being good. And when you think about projecting in the next year, the Cincinnati Bengals, who knows what they'll do, right? The Baltimore Ravens, they have a new head coach coming to town. Who knows how that's going to mesh? The Cleveland Browns will be the Cleveland Browns, right? So you can win the AFC North once again. There's a clear path for it, and get back in the playoffs and make some noise with a much talented roster.
And I think the point, you and I have talked about this off the show a lot, but you could see the level of appreciation that both Tomlin had for Rodgers and Rodgers had for Tomlin. And there were many moments over these last few games where, whether it was caught on camera or was caught on, they were mic'd up, they were very appreciative. It was almost like they were falling back in love with football, right? Both of them were having tough moments for totally different reasons. And I think if knowing these two competitors, I can't imagine they can look at this situation and go, we gave it our best effort. Because that's not what happened. They gave it a good effort, but they didn't push all the chips to the middle and really try and go all in on this thing. So I would love to see them run it back one more time. And I hope that Mike McDaniel does the right thing for himself and takes his talents out of South Beach and goes up to Pittsburgh to coach offense for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yep, 100%. I said it and I'll say it again. I think the GM, he went halfway. He pushed a couple
Yep.
chips in the middle of the table. He didn't push all the chips in the middle of the table. And we even talked about it at the trade deadline. They should have been a team that went after one of these playmakers. And I think we would have had a totally different football game if they had another dynamic threat